Script writing can be hard, but it doesn't have to be. The foundation to many YouTube videos, movies, and TV shows is a good script. If you're a new creator on YouTube and want to make scripted content, then you're in the right place. In this video, I'll be showing you two different formats of script writing that I've used, and luckily for you, these methods are pretty easy to get the grasp of. Or at least I think they are. In the end, it's up to your personal preference. But without further ado, here's how I go about writing a script. When it comes to how I format the scripts, I have one primary way of doing so, and the key to it is color coding. You see, I don't use my video scripts as just a way to know what I'm going to say in the video. When I write a script, it's a plan for how the entire video is going to be. This includes camera shots, specific footage to get, transitions, notes, things I want to do while editing, and of course, what I'm going to actually say. Now, to give you a demonstration of pretty much all of these, I'll be using the script from my video Super Mario 3D World vs. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. As you can see here, it's pretty thick, and it's a pretty large video as well. Links will be in a card, in the description, at the end of the video if you wanted to check it out. But let's take a closer look here. As you see, it's a pretty colorful page, and those colors are not there just to be all pretty. Well, okay, maybe that's part of it, but more importantly, they differentiate what the specific line or lines of text represent. For example, the bolded blue text are gameplay clips I want to be played while the black text below it, which are the words that I'll say in the video, are being read. So again, the black text represents what I'll be saying in the video. Most of the time, I read them directly as they're written on the script. Now, some may consider this the reason for my scripts to be unprofessional, since I write in the way I talk, and grammar is not a priority with these, since most of the time, I'm the only one who's actually looking at the script. The examples in this video are an exception to that though. Another thing I use black text for is editing directions. I put those in parentheses and underline them. Now, you may have also noticed some green text in my previously shown examples. Well, if you read those lines, you will have found out that green text stand for transitions. When I'm talking about many subject areas in a video, a good transition is key to make it clear when something new is being talked about. In this example, I'm transitioning to a section where I talk about the gameplay differences between two games. So when I see green text on my script, I know I'll need to add a transition scene between video clips. Speaking of, I put transitions in the beginning of the videos as well because I'm transitioning from the introduction to the first topic. Same goes for the last topic. You may have also noticed that I include what the backgrounds will be for the transitions as well. Having a background on a transition gives the viewer a preview of what the section is about, as well as keeping them engaged with something fascinating to look at. But looks are only half the battle when it comes to a scripted video. You have to have fascinating and engaging audio as well. Music is a great way to have engaging audio. For that, I use purple text. I'll make a text box to separate it from the rest of the script since the music is something only added in editing. So I know that when I see a text box with purple text, it means that for that section I want a specific song playing. And finally, I may color random parts of the footage text or the speech text so I personally know I'm talking about a character. Since I mostly make video game related scripted content, if I'm talking about using a certain character in footage, I'll often color code their name on the script with the character's primary color in the games. In this example, I do this for Cat Mario and Cat Peach. That about wraps it up for the main format I use when writing my scripts. But I do actually have a second format to share with you if this kind just isn't your style. Now don't worry, it's still really basic and really easy to follow and write. The main difference is that the format is just black and white. Literally. And this is it. This is the script I used for the first episode of Bowling City on my second channel called AIV Studios. Links are in all possible places. Also, ignore the length of the script. This page only has a couple scenes on it. Other stuff was all improv in the video. But this still has enough on it to prove my point. Anyway, this format works using different emphasis on words, those being underlines, bullet points, and colons. You may notice that there are names on the left of most of the lines with colons following. These are the names of the characters in the videos, and the colon separates the name from what the character says. This is actually a really simple way of writing lines for videos with multiple people all having different things to say. As for footage and camera directions, those are all underlined, and stage directions are in bullet points and parentheses. In this format, I combine editing directions and the underlines and the bullet points. Of course, this is missing more detailed elements from the previous format like music, notes, transitions, and specific editing directions, but that can easily be worked around. For transitions, I leave a full blank space to separate scenes. Music and notes I just handwrite on the printed script later. Now again, this format is one I recommend for those who don't want to have to use color coding in their scripts, because I get it, it's not for everyone. And there are many reasons you may choose this method over color coding as well. This may be something like not wanting to use colored printer ink, since sometimes that can get expensive or hard to find, or maybe you don't want to have to add color to multiple lines in a script, or maybe it's something else. Either way, these are the two main formats I've used when writing scripts. But we're not done yet, we still have to discuss the actual writing of the script. Having an organized script is awesome for you, but you of course want your organized script to make sense. Now when it comes to the beginning of writing a script, you need to know what the main topic of your video is going to be about. Your speech text should clearly be about the topic of your video. In my 3D World versus video example, the topic of that video is comparing and contrasting the Nintendo Wii U version of the game Super Mario 3D World and the Nintendo Switch version of the same game. And within that video, I have sections of differences I talked about in great detail, but I also had a section where I talked about many different things which I titled The Small Things. This title makes sense because this section is about all the small or minor changes between both versions of the game. I also gave the viewers a warning about this section changing topics quite a bit. The pictures of your transitions should make sense for them too. As I previously stated, visuals in the transitions are a great way to engage the viewer and interest them in the sections or subtopics of your video. You wouldn't want to, say, make a video on how to cook something and have your transition be a picture of your dog. Although that's very cute, it's unrelated to the topic. This is your worst nightmare because it may confuse the viewer and they may stop watching your video. Your transition text and visuals should coordinate with each other. This will interest the viewer in the topic since they get a preview of what it's about. Similarly to your transitions, the footage you choose for different parts of the video needs to make sense with what you're talking about. Normally when I start writing my scripts, I know exactly what my topics and subtopics are going to be about, and what kind of footage I want to get for those sections. If I'm talking about something specific, like certain parts of a video game level, I'm going to put the game footage of what I'm talking about. I know this may seem obvious to some, but planning out visuals with your speech in a script is not an easy thing. Sometimes I find myself in a situation where I'm just talking about something not very specific. In that instance, I do one of two things. One is to find a random piece of footage, for me it would be game footage, to play while I'm talking. You may have noticed that in some videos, people change footage constantly, like every sentence. This is to keep the viewer engaged a bit more by giving them something different to look at. And you can get away with this as long as, again, you're not talking about something specific. The second method is to do in front of the camera shots, like most of the footage in this video, including what you're currently looking at. I know that some people are camera shy, and that's okay. This option isn't for everyone, and you definitely should have some confidence in how you look before you put yourself out on the internet. An easy solution may be to do something like I do where I don't show my face. If you do this though, make sure you use hand movements to your advantage. Simple gestures like this can engage the viewer even though they're not looking at your face. Again, you can resort to doing in front of the camera shots while you're not talking about something specific. Ultimately though, it comes down to what your video actually needs. If it'll benefit from more in front of the camera shots, then that's what you should use. If your subject area requires another type of footage, use that. But you should do research and watch other videos in the same subject area as the ones you wish to create to get an idea of what kind of footage suits it best. In my case, footage of me playing video games works best for my scripted content, and other similar content creators do the same thing. It's all dependent on what you want to achieve in your video. Wow, we spent a lot of time talking about the different kinds of video footage and how it's useful in different situations. Now let's talk more about the speech of the video. Let's start with repetition, repetition, and more repetition. You may have noticed I repeat several lines throughout this video, such as knowing what your videos are going to be about when writing scripts. And that was not lazy writing on my part, it was all intentional. You see, repetition can be a great way to prove a point and get it into people's minds in a surprisingly subtle way. Now yes, the most observant of you watching this may have noticed all my repetition, and I can assure you, I was never intending to be annoying. But I can almost guarantee that you guys will remember to know what your video is going to be about while writing a script after watching this video, since I've said that so many times. You may have not even noticed it because I don't repeat it in exactly the same way. Sometimes I phrased it differently, so it seemed like a new line when in reality, it was just restating a previous point. For educational or instructional videos, like this one, repetition makes sense. You want to repeat your main points so your viewers actually learn something from you and remember it even after watching. Real life teachers, like in school, may repeat things over and over again, and they do it for this same reason. Did you see what I just did there? No, I didn't just get rid of the word repetition off the screen. I applied a real life situation to my lesson to make it more relatable. Think for a moment. When I mentioned school teachers repeating things over and over again, did you think about times back in school where a teacher did that in your class? I'm sure you did, because your brain made a real-life connection between my video and your personal experiences, which will allow my lesson to make a greater impact on you. Making your speech relatable will cause your video's message to have a greater impact on the viewers watching. You know what else will cause the viewers to remember your video? Humor! Putting humor into your videos will not only make it memorable, but also desirable. What I mean by that is that the viewers will find you entertaining and therefore subscribe to watch more of your content. It doesn't have to be humor like you see at stand-up comedy shows. It can be simple dry humor or silly humor that most people will be able to understand and have a good laugh at. Sure, you can include inside jokes once you get to that point, but having dry, relatable humor will intrigue new viewers who run across your channel as well. You may have noticed some subtle jokes here and there in this video, and hopefully I was able to get some laughs. Also, one final note about making jokes in your videos. Just be sure that it's not offensive humor. Make sure you understand what's appropriate and what's not when it comes to writing jokes, and the speech of your script in general for that matter. Humor may keep the viewer engaged throughout the video, but what about catching the viewer's interest when they first click on your video? You may have heard that you have the first 10 seconds of your video to get the viewer engaged, or else they won't continue watching. Believe it or not, this is true. And whether you realize it or not, you probably judged a video you've seen before by the first 10 seconds you've seen on it. I know I have. So coming up with a good hook is necessary to draw attention to your video. The best way to do this is to come up with something related to your video's topic that'll get the viewer thinking a bit. If you ask a question or say something that might be fascinating or useful to the viewer, then they will think about it more and more, and soon they'll be watching your video. So have the first 10 seconds of your video be something that'll make the viewer think. Then they'll stay to watch the rest of your video. Having a good hook is a great beginning to your video, but let's talk about conclusions. I like to write happy conclusions. A nice message thanking the viewer for watching and wish that they have a great day. This shows that I care about them watching the video, which I truly do. I also say, see you in the next video, often as well, to encourage the viewers to watch more of my content. I like saying that because it seems like a polite way of saying you'd like the viewer to stick around for future videos instead of telling them to subscribe or like the videos. I doubt I'm the only one who feels this way, but I honestly don't like it when YouTubers ask to subscribe or like their videos. I do make an exception for video shares though. For educational videos specifically, I encourage my viewers to share the video if they know someone who may find the information useful. I don't do this in an effort to improve my channel's viewership. I do it because I genuinely want to be helpful to others. So to me, a good conclusion ends the video on a positive note and doesn't ask for likes or subscriptions. And to conclude this section of the video, I'd like to share with you something that you won't be including in your speech, but should still include in your script anyway. If you're planning on making fact-based or educational videos, you will likely have to perform research using the World Wide Web. The internet is amazing when it comes to finding out information since there's so many places where you can find and learn new things. But what you need to consider is keeping track of where you got your information from. Having a sources section in your script is incredibly useful when you're doing research and using said research in your video. You can use a source log to give credit to the site you use, This prevents that whole plagiarism dilemma that could occur if you use a source and don't give it credit. This is also useful when you have to cross-reference information from previous videos or find a fact that you found out is wrong. If you label which sources you use for what facts, you can easily trace it down and know not to use that source in the future. However, with no sources, tracing down the origin of false information will be a nightmare. And since you probably won't remember the exact source of said false information, you may use it again by mistake and have more incorrect facts in your scripts. This may reduce your credibility, and of course, you don't want that. Save yourself the hassle and just document all of your sources and what you use them for. It's definitely more of a help than a bother. And that about wraps it up for all I have to say about actually writing the script. This is no doubt one of the hardest parts of making scripted videos, but once you get the hang of writing scripts, it'll become easier and easier as time goes on. Now, writing a good script is quite an accomplishment on its own, but now it's time to apply what you wrote and make it into an actual video. Let's talk more about actually interpreting what you've written on the script. So now you have this awesome script in front of you, and your next step is to record. Now, before recording, you should proofread your script for yourself. If you're working with other people who have lines in your script, make sure they read through it at least once as well. Might I suggest a table read? And once you or everyone in your production has read through the script at least once, all the way through, you and or your group should go through this checklist. Your script should be easy to read, have speech that makes sense, and have clear stage directions. That last one is especially important when working with a group. Let me clarify, how I do things is not for everyone, and you may have an easier time looking at the speeches in different ways. When I go about writing a script, I use size 14 font for everything since I like the bigger text. I don't have any problems with my vision, but I personally like it when the text is bigger. I also write the scripts in the way I talk. Now yes, some things I may or may not say while recording, but what's on the scripts are pretty much what ends up in the video. But that's just me. Some of you may like different font sizes or having the speech in different formats, such as bullet point, presentation-like form where you have a few words on the script, but then expand upon those words in memory, or maybe you like having proper grammar on your speech. Ultimately, you're the only one who knows how you like reading things, so you'll have to make that choice for yourself. And that about wraps up this section. I knew it was going to be rather short since it's really all about making sure that you and anyone else who may need to use your script can easily understand it when you end up using it for recording. Now, let's talk about reading the script. Welcome to the visual for the 4th transition of this educational program. We are delighted you have made it this far, and in case you were wondering, class will be dismissed shortly. Okay, this isn't really about writing scripts, but I'd still like to give some advice on reading scripts for videos. While you're recording, try not to have a monotone voice. Now there can be exceptions to this, like fact videos. Fact videos are simply get-to-the-point kinds of videos where you're mostly just paying attention to the information itself and not necessarily how it's being delivered. However, for more opinionated videos, you ideally don't want to have a monotone voice for the entirety of your video. When you're expressing opinions, fluctuate your tone of voice to match how you feel about what you're talking about. I do this since most of my scripted videos are opinionated. Super Mario Galaxy is an amazing game. Actually, amazing is an understatement. This is a revolutionary game. Anyone who has played it, I'm sure would agree with me here. And in this video, I will dive into what makes this game so revolutionary. Let's get started. Before you start recording, I would make sure you read through your script out loud all the way through at least a couple times to practice different tones of voice if needed, and to make sure you can read through it easily. It'll sound a lot better in the final product if you do so. Alright, that's all the advice I have to give about reading scripts, but we have one last thing to cover. We've gone over the format of a script, how to write a script, how to interpret, and how to read a script. But before you go, I'd like to talk about the 2 primary forms of scripts, printed and digital forms. They each have their advantages and disadvantages. I personally go for printed scripts. I like using paper scripts because I can have my voiceover software open on my computer and not have to worry about splitting screens or scrolling down while recording. That and eye strain is not an issue since I'm not reading from a screen. That, and I can easily checkmark footage that I've already recorded, so I can keep track of what I still have left to record. Now yes, digital copies are easier to modify, easier to share, and are cheaper. Printer ink and paper costs quite a bit, especially if you're printing a ton of long scripts. But to me, I always prefer having hard copies to read off of. So yeah, both paper and digital scripts have their ups and downs, and ultimately it's one of those things that's down to personal preference. Well guys, that concludes this tutorial on how I go about writing a script. At first, I thought this video was going to be as simple as me explaining how I write my scripts, but it turned out to be more of a basic tutorial for making scripted content as a whole. And that's not a bad thing. I hope I was able to help new creators make that first step into entering the magical world that is being a creator on YouTube. Maybe share this video with someone you know who may find it useful. If you have any questions about anything discussed in this video or about anything with the video making process, feel free to put them down in the comments below, and I will answer them with the best of my knowledge based on my personal experience. And who knows, some may even become full-fledged videos like this one. I've been making YouTube content for over 3 years now, and scripting content for pretty much a year at this point, and I'm not planning on stopping either anytime soon. Anyway guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.